The Dick method. Boy, your wood is hard here. No, it's an experience.
He's like that toilet paper that I used yesterday. It was bad. It just.
Well, they're loud.
What?
They're
What?
Yeah, they're louder.
Whatever goes in's got to come out.
I know, that's the problem. Since you do it, people are going to try to do it.
Today I'm in the wood yard. We're together. I'm at Tony's. You guys have been requesting it. We're here. We're going to talk today. Today we're going to talk about chainsaw sharpening. When, how, where, how much, what way. We're
and all the myths out there.
And we're going to talk about all of it. We don't know how long this is going to go, but we're going to talk about it. So here we go. So once again, we are together. Was it Abbott and Costello?
That's it. Dean and Martin and Dean, or Dean Martin. No.
Curly and Mo, however you want to say it. So yeah, I came to Tony's. We've been wanting to do this for a long time. The last Woodcast or podcast, whatever you want to call it, we call it a Woodcast, was like a year ago.
Exactly.
And this guy went and started a channel, so he got super busy trying to do his own videos, and I've been busy trying to do videos, and I have a second channel, and we just haven't done this enough. And some guys thought that we were mad at each other because I used to call him my old best friend. Well, it's just because I have more new friends, so he's the old, used version of a best friend. So
thanks. I appreciate that.
He's like that toilet paper that I used yesterday. It was bad. So anyway,
both sides.
So today we're going to talk about chainsaws, because we were talking earlier today, because we went and did a video on his channel, which you guys have got to check out, and that is with
Tony's Cool Tools.
And the video basically was pulling a deadfall
a leaner that had a fork at the top and basically no way of getting it down.
Real safe way.
Right,
and so
a safe way.
He had a safe way of getting it down. We used your Honda, what's the brand name?
It's the portable winch.
Portable winch. And we cut it and then pulled it down, which we showed different ways you could do it. So that's on his channel. You're going to want to check that out. So this morning we were talking about different ways guys sharpen chains, and how on our channel we hear how we're, of course, doing it wrong, because
everyone's doing it wrong, or you should do it this way. It's the only way.
And there's a lot of ways. We're going to talk about some of the ways and reasons and things like that. And I just told Tony that I was watching Buck and Billy Ray. He had done a short and he was sharpening a tooth, and it was a close-up of the tooth. And as he's sharpening, he says, yes, I'm taking off lots of material. There's a burr on this, and I need to get the gullet, and I need to get the top plate straight because there's a burr on it because it wasn't cutting good. And he was filing away, and he says, and yes, I'm taking a lot of material away. And you know what? I paid for this chain with my own money, and I'm going to take away as much material as I want, because he was sharpening a tooth, because I get that too. You're taking way too much material off of it. No, I'm taking the right amount to get it sharp.
Of anybody, the Dremel takes off, if you're not hogging it, probably the least of it.
If you just dance
feather it, yeah,
right.
Yeah. But once again, and we talked about it, what if I hit a piece of metal, or I hit a rock or whatever, and let's just say it's always on one side that they're all bad. Usually, yeah. Let's just say 5 teeth now are shorter than any of the other teeth. And my question to you was, do I go ahead and grind the hell out of those all the way to get the right angle, bring it all the way down? Now that tooth is 1/8 of an inch smaller than anyone else. Should I do that? My thought on it, the way I've done it, no. I will get it as close to the angle as I can, and those 5 teeth don't cut as good as the other ones.
Maybe not.
But I'm not taking it all the way down. Somebody will be out there say, no, you got to get them. And you were telling me about the guy who used a micrometer.
And he had one tooth that was off, so he filed all the teeth
to that,
on the whole chain to that length. I'm like, why would you take off material on a tooth if you don't have to? The tooth, short or long, will still cut. Yes. The longer, more uniform one will cut better. But if you hit something, you have options. Number one option, you do what we call the Dick method. And the Dick method is our good buddy Dick Hansen. We were just at his place this morning. His method is use the chain till it's dull, throw it out, put a new one on.
Or save it. Don't throw it out, save it.
Give it to
but get
else.
Another. Yeah, go get another one.
Right, that's the Dick method.
That is the Dick method.
He's got more money than time, and he doesn't care. He just wants to get a new, get it working.
And that's fantastic for him.
Yep.
The other issue is, it's a consumable item. It's similar to your toothpaste. I know everyone takes that tube and rolls it all the way to get every last drop out of it.
Or the toothbrush, where you wear it down till it's all mashed out.
Oh, you're talking about yourself again, huh? Both with the toothbrush and the toothpaste. Well, anyways, yeah, that's what I'm talking. It's a consumable item. You're going to need a new one eventually. So why not use it?
Right.
And, you know, I've gone back to hand filing, and yes, it does take the material off, but I try not to go 20 times on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, guys have told me they count the strokes.
Right, I do.
Which is fine if your teeth are all pretty good, or if you're trying to just touch them up. 2 or 3 strokes usually does it. But if you do hit a nail or a rock, some of those you're going to have to take a lot of material off to get it to be sharp again, because you want your top plate to have that nice straight line at an angle that's appropriate, and you want the gullet to be right, because the tip has got to be sharp. If you got a tooth that's rounded and you just get it kind of sharp on the top, but not straight, and you don't have that sharp cat claw tip, it's not going to cut. You got to get it all the way back to where it's actually going to cut.
See, and I don't go that far yet. I figure those 5 are going to cut good enough, and
Maybe,
that's the difference, you know. I get the cat claw, totally understand
And if
that.
you're a guy that likes to run his chainsaw until it's smoking before he sharpens,
That's the way.
go right ahead.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. I don't care.
Well, the other issue too is, for me, counting how many strokes I take on the chainsaw, that is. Anyways, when I do that, I know that hopefully I'm not going to get it cutting left or right either. Because if you do too much on one side and not the other.
You can.
Yeah.
Well, but usually if your saw cuts crooked, it's generally because your rail is getting sloppy.
That's another reason.
Needs to be redressed. There's a lot of issues, but sticking to the sharpening of the actual chain, I know guys that will sharpen their chain right down to just a nub. And I've done it a couple times, but the second you realize that you're not cutting as good as you were, and like, oh, it's time to change it. You go and you change your chain out, you go to make that next cut, and you're like, oh my God.
Well,
what a difference. I should have changed it 2 sharpenings ago.
Brother Kenny tells you, once you get down to a certain point, when you're talking dollars, when you're doing it for a living,
cutting 8 hours a day,
it doesn't make sense to keep doing it past leaving a third of it.
Yeah, and if you're cutting just for fun of yourself and you're producing
then you
firewood,
can.
Yeah, wear them down as far as you want to go. But your saw is working harder. You're working harder. Chains aren't that expensive.
And the bar is getting hotter on it, so you're deforming the bar. So there's a lot of reasons not to do it, trying to get that extra, 50 thousandths of material. And once again, it's not worth it.
No, and it's a personal thing. And so I get this on my channel. I know Buckin gets it. I know other people, I've read comments and they're giving their advice on how to sharpen and the best way to sharpen. And I would say number 1, learn how to use a file.
That's the hardest way.
Because it's the hardest way, but once you learn that, you know.
Yeah.
Then you know. Then you know if you're going to be using a Dremel, or if you're going to be buying, like, say, an Oregon grinder, or one of those where it's got a wheel where you're sharpening it, which works great. But that's not for everybody. The big benefit I see to file sharpening, more than anything else, is it's this long and smaller than your finger. You can shove it in your boot. You can put it in your pocket. You can have it on you in the woods, no matter where you are. So if you're 200 yards into the woods away from your truck and you hit something, all of a sudden you're not cutting very good, instead of walking all the way back out, you take your file out, sharpen it up. That's the biggest benefit.
But also remember one thing, and it goes down to the consumable. The file only lasts so many times. People think that one file will last them forever.
No.
You gotta buy replacements on that, because those teeth get bound up with metal on them, and no matter how many times you tap them or use a brass brush to knock them off, you gotta get them. And sometimes the one that you buy doesn't work.
No, piece of crap.
Yeah.
We've had that brand new one, like,
so,
this file's brand new, it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And you grab another one out of the box. We buy them by the dozen.
Yeah.
You grab the next one, like, now that's working. You can just feel it.
Once you feel that when it cuts into your chain, oh, what a feeling. And it's just like they say, taking a brand new chain and doing 1 or 2 strokes on it with a file to get it that's super sharp.
Super sharp, yep. A little touch-up
Huge
is good.
difference.
Yeah, brand new chains are sharp, but they're not as sharp as they can be. And guys that hand file know this.
Yep.
A couple strokes, man, they get scary then. And because I run a lot of bigger saws, I like the 592, 572. The bigger, the 70 to 90 cc saws, I even like taking my Rakers down a stroke.
See, and
right out of the box.
once again, that's where a lot of
I wanna
people
be
have
pulled into
issue is
Yep, well.
if you want to use that chain for firewood, that's fantastic. If you want to take that same chain and try to cut a tree, you get that bucking on it because it's just too, if you want to do a plunge cut, forget about it because it's just not. So yeah, for firewood, I agree.
Depends
Rakers,
on what you're doing, right?
That's depends
And
on.
the next thing is, what are you cutting? Are you cutting soft as melted butter pine?
Oh, you're talking about
Or
those
spruce?
folks out in the West Coast?
No, I don't want to get in that argument. But they do cut pine, and they do cut spruce. They do cut a lot of fir. And it's like cutting butter.
It is.
It just is.
It is.
If you were here in the Midwest or in northern Canada or on the East Coast, and like Maine, and you're cutting into hard maple, rock maple, and it's 20, 30 below, it's like freaking cutting cement. It's like going up to a curb on a street and trying to cut the curb, because it's tough stuff.
We just had a gentleman come to the the Hoosier Hysteria. He came from Oregon.
Right.
Can you imagine driving, 2,400 miles to come to the Hoosier Hysteria?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was.
But he went ahead and he brought his saws with him, and naturally those boys used the long bars and everything. He came in with his, and he stops, and he goes, "Boy, your wood is hard here." And he was cutting the hard maple.
Hard maple, dry ash, dry oak.
Yeah,
it cuts
he
hard.
couldn't
It just
believe
does.
what a difference there was.
Yeah. We don't want to get in a hard.
No.
And I did a video on this not too long ago about why guys use the longer bars. Yes, you don't have to lean over as much, but where I cut, and in the woods especially, our woods are thick. I don't want to have to drag a big bar and try to weave it in and out of the brush. And we cut a lot of bushy trees that are full of branches, like a spruce tree or something. A 20, 24-inch bar is just so much easier to maneuver. And that's what they use in Europe, short 18-inch bars all the time. And like I say, a 20-inch bar gives you a 40-inch tree cut. That's a whole nother topic we don't need to talk about. We're going to talk more about the sharpening. So my rule of thumb is when your tooth gets worn down to about 1/3 left, it's time to change it. My brother thinks more like about a half.
Yeah.
Because he likes them razor sharp and he wants to produce. Because when he's cutting or when he was working full time doing logging jobs, he got paid by the amount of work he's doing, amount of cords he's producing in a day. So if at the end of a day with a shorter tooth on your chain, you're trying to make it last, and he can cut, say, 7 full cords in a day, cutting aspen or popple or red pine, whatever it is. But if he had a brand new chain that he touched up and he can keep that baby sharp, he could do 8 or 10. So that's a whole nother $40, $50 he's making every day.
That's it.
You add that up in a week, add that up in a month, add that up in a year, chains are cheap.
Yeah.
So that's why I maybe get rid of them. Maybe my brother might get rid of them sooner than a lot of guys do. But again, like we're talking about, if you're cutting firewood for yourself or just cutting trees occasionally, you can get a lot of life out of a chain. You can make them go longer and longer.
And then the next step is, what do you use? You mentioned the file.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the basic. That's the first one.
Well,
then you get
that's not basic. That's advanced. I mean,
well,
hand
that
filing
is an advanced.
There's a lot of guys that never get it.
No, they don't. But that's the one that you get sold on most of the time because it's easy. One file, a handle, possibly a guide, maybe.
So
with
the step up from that
the
is
step
the 2-in-1.
up is
the 2-in-1.
Well, no, the step up from just a standard file is Steel offers it, and I know Husqvarna does. Is the little guide that you clip onto the. That's the second one. Then you go to the 2-in-1 that has the rakers and the saw or the file in it, and that's it. And then after that, there's a multitude.
Then you got clamp-on devices with little carbide sharpening rotary things, and you crank on it, which I don't have and never used them, but I've seen videos on it. It looks like it works great.
It looks like it works, but then there again, you hear it takes out a lot of material, and it's also expensive. Those burrs are a consumable. Just because it's carbide, yes, it might last a little longer, but it does. You got to buy them, and they're $25 to $30 a piece. Yeah.
Files are cheap. That's
and
the
then
other reason.
The Dremel.
Yep. Then you can go through it. Well,
the rotary tool
the
is
Dremel, which
one
I use
before.
a lot, and a lot of people, tell me when I look at the comments on videos I've done where I've used either the Dremel or the Ease Do or any rotary tool for that matter, is that you're taking away so much material. No, I'm not. I'm sharpening the tooth.
Not only that, you can actually touch the tooth. It's not hot.
Yeah.
You're not bluing that tip.
Well, sometimes if you watch it, there's a little puff of smoke that'll come up, and the tip will turn kind of a brownish or even like a burnt color. That's because there's sawdust on top of the tooth or oil.
Yep,
and
or
that's
oil.
what's burning.
That's the one.
Teeth don't get that hot. I've never ever in 10 years now, because I used to hand file for like 30 years. In the last 10 years, I've gone, I wouldn't say exclusively, but probably 90% of the time I'm using a Dremel because I'm sharpening all my saws at once. At the end of the day or halfway through the day, if I've cut with 4 saws in a row, I get to the fourth one, it's dull. I usually sharpen every tank, usually. I'll sharpen every single saw, then go back to the first saw and start cutting again. But then there's another alternative, like we thought about the Dick method, just putting a new chain on.
Absolutely.
Then there's the Bert method. Bert has a locker with half a dozen chains. When his gets dull, he takes that one off, he puts a new chain on. It's not a new chain, it's a chain sharpened by him.
Right.
And that's the next method. He sharpens with his rotary, not rotary, it's a disc.
It's a
like
bench-mounted
right,
grinder,
right.
And he actually goes one step further in that he doesn't want to change any of his settings from right to left. So he has a second
opposing unit
so that he can just take it from one and go to the other. And it makes sense. That's an advance. That's
right,
already.
He's going with the square grind, and it is razor sharp.
Yeah.
It's so sharp. He did it once on the processor, on the chain for the processor that's on there, and that's like a
404.
It's a 404 chain.
Yeah.
It was so sharp and so aggressive that when we were cutting big wood like hard maple and oak, bigger ones that are like 20, 30 inches, it just it was so aggressive. Even with the 115 horsepower Kubota engine running it, it wasn't good. It was just bouncing and it didn't like it. It was too much. So that day after he had put it on, we tried it out. I went back through and I took the Dremel up on the actual processor. I ground them all to be round again, cut like butter. It was too much.
Well, the other thing is, don't get hung up on how sharp it is. If you get an average cut for most people, that's sufficient. I mean, it goes down to some guys are going down, grabbing the curls that there and looking at the curls to see what.
Well, you want big
I mean, yeah, you want. Yeah. That's nice, but if you're doing firewood, what's the difference? I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
But I know some people are OCD about that, and God bless you. I'm not one of them.
Same as actual chainsaws themselves.
Right.
Guys get all hung up on the right CC saw for the job, which I agree with. But then they talk about, if you do this a little bit, you can get another 5 or 10%. And if you do this, you put a bark box on, or if you have it ported, yeah, I know you can get more out of it. But for the average guy, is it necessary?
Well, it sounds cool.
Well, no.
Well, they're loud.
What?
They're
what?
Yeah, they're louder than your 592.
My 592 is so loud.
I know.
I wear earplugs, and actually I do it all the time, and muffs, and it's still too loud.
It is.
And I've been around guys that have ported saws that have the bark boxes. It's not fun.
No.
And my hearing is worth more than cutting a little bit faster.
That is true.
Or a little bit more power. I'd rather be able to hear for the next, how long do I have left?
Maybe a couple years at least.
I hope I got about 30 more. That means I'd be at 92. That'd be old enough. So
to do what?
Breathe.
Oh.
Or whatever else is fun in life.
Well, with you, it's the opposite end.
You got whatever goes in's got to come out.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. I'm usually in the car with you.
So anyway, on this whole sharpening thing, do what works good for you.
That's it.
Learn all the different methods. And the one thing that we didn't talk about that I know is, I'm going to talk a little bit about.
But you know a lot.
No, not. Oh. I know just a little bit. I'm like a jackknife that's got a few extra tools on it. Not great.
There's another word for that.
Well, I know. So when I'm cutting, we talk about rakers and how far you want them down. I like my saws to be a little more aggressive probably than the average guy. Number one, because I'm impatient, because I want it to cut as fast as possible, and I'm capable of knowing that I'm not just going to let I'm not always going to let the saw just fall. Sometimes I can hold it back a little bit depending on what I'm cutting. If I'm cutting something really hard, I can hold it off a little bit and let it eat fast. And if you're cutting something like soft pine, you can just reef into it. But I like my rakers to be a little bit aggressive. I think when they come out of the box, I think they're a little too safe.
Yeah.
Unless you're cutting something you know, that is really hard wood. I mean, that does make a difference. But I generally take my rakers down one swipe or like half of a swipe about every second or third time I sharpen.
Yep. That's about it.
Now, I used to use the gauge all the time. I'd put it on top and I would check it to make sure that I'm right at the level they're supposed to be. But because I've cut so much, I just know when I'm running it and it needs to be sharpened and I'm kind of starting to lean on it a little bit and I can tell I'm pushing, I got to sharpen number one. Number two, the rakers probably need to come down just a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's more of a feel thing for me because it doesn't take much to make your saw pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful there. And when people get in a big argument about sharpening and getting your saw to be maximum performance, the only way to know, like we talked about, is to try it and do a lot of cutting and get better at it.
Exactly. It's just like this oak here is nice. It's a lot larger. But the other trailer that I got, the triaxle that I had of ash, was all no more than 10 inches. And cutting, you're doing a lot of cutting, you know.
But it cuts easy.
It cuts easy. But what I like is the ability to use the tip on it and that's a control thing that you get with experience, to be able to hold it on there without flipping the log over.
And to know how to guide it in
exactly.
so you're not getting kickback. To know how to sneak your bar in there. And that's like people see me cutting in log piles. They might see me, you know, chucking pieces by using the chain or flipping it or... that's stuff that not everybody should do.
No, it's an experience. But once again, since you do it, people are going to try to do it.
The first few times you try it, you're going to hit your shin, not with your chain, but you're going to hit a log. You're going to think you can flip it. You got to be off to the side one way or the other.
That's exactly it.
Grabbing the end of it with your teeth and giving a little juice and letting it fly. It's stuff you really shouldn't do.
It's a thing that you get as far as experience after. It probably took me that first whole trailer load before I got comfortable using that tip and cutting the smaller logs without burying it or digging it into the ground or whatever. But once you master that, it's nice to be able to cut.
I honestly don't think you ever master anything.
Well,
because you're dealing with wood, you're dealing with a powerful tool.
But you're confident. That's the one thing I find is I'm more confident with it.
But yet respectful of what you've got in your hands.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people say, I'm not afraid of the saw. I'm not afraid of the tip. You should be.
Yeah.
You should be. It's no different than a loaded gun.
That is true.
Which is why we wear chaps. We wear gloves. We wear steel toe boots. We wear ear protection, eye protection. We were talking earlier today. We both have hit our legs with chaps. And they work.
And they do.
They work. So
they definitely stop a chainsaw from cutting into your leg.
Right. One method that I just thought of that we didn't mention earlier when it comes to sharpening your chain is you buy 4, 5, 6 chains. Every time one gets dull, put a new chain on. Save all your old chains. When you get 4 or 5 of them, take them to the store, the pro shop, have them sharpen them.
There you
There you
go.
go. You don't have to learn how to sharpen.
That is true. You don't have to.
Or if you got a friend that you owe some favors to, or you're not afraid to throw them a bone, buy them a case of beer. Here, sharpen my chains for me, whatever it is.
Well,
I like whiskey myself.
Yeah, we know that. But the other thing too is those but those chains that have already gone past their life cycle, hang on to 2 or 3 of them. You always got to cut stumps. And I hate doing it with a new chain. So I switch out. I always have a junk chain in my toolbox. And I just put that on when I got to go below tree level there. Because I know that's going to have a lot of dirt and grit from the rain hitting it, splashing all that soil on the trees there. You're going to get, that's going to wear your chain out quickly.
I just did a job for my neighbor, and he had some arborvitaes that were cedar trees about this big, and we wanted them cut as low as possible. So when they had all these, it was like in rocks for the landscaping. So we pulled them all out. Well, I knew there was going to be rocks. I had no idea how bad it was going to be. So I got about a quarter of the way through. All of a sudden, I noticed the chain was smoking. I put a junk chain on, and I'm leaning on it, and I pull it out. All the teeth were round. Sharpen it again. I just made it through it, but then I flipped it over. Inside the tree,
was a rock.
No, not a rock. Rocks. Like
really?
5 or 6, the size of your thumb. I had cut right in half. Because they were growing into the tree. So it was one of those things where the chain was so bad, I just chucked it after that. But that's why you save your crappy chains.
Yep.
So that's it for today, folks. Come on back. We're going to do some more of this. Tomorrow we'll have another video for you at 5:30 a.m. M. Right now, there's 1,400 other videos you need to watch right now. Now would be a good time. When you're done with all those 1,400, check out Tony's channel, Tony's Cool Tools. It's got all kinds of stuff just like this on there.
Good night, Irene.
There you go.
See you guys later.